Hello and welcome. We are live. We're live on Facebook. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. This is Jonny Ross Fractional CMO. I've got Kyle Hoffman with me. How are you, Kyle?
Doing fantastic, Johnny.
You're all right. Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's early for you, but we're going to be deep diving into D2C and behavioral science today. Welcome back to Jonny Ross Fractional CMO podcast. Today, we're delving deep into the world of D2C brands, e-commerce, and the transformative power of behavioral science. With us is the dynamic Kyle Hoffman, the strategic mind behind Wellow's explosive growth and the director of growth strategy at Function Growth. Kyle's experience spans from applying cutting-edge technology and behavioral science to scaling brands, crafting sustainable business models in today's e-commerce landscape. In this episode, we'll uncover the story behind Wellow's success, grasp the significance of behavioral science in brand scaling, and gather actionable insights for your D2C brand journey. Are you ready to ignite your brand strategy? Let's dive in. So, Kyle, tell me about the Wellow's growth story and how it's part of Function Growth. I think Function Growth's the agency. Wellow's a brand that you created. Tell us the story.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first off, that's probably the best podcast intro I think I've ever got. I think you should join me on every Zoom meeting that I ever do. Give my intro that way. I think we'll win all sorts of clients. Yeah, Wellow is a cool story. I mean, there's not a lot of agencies out there who start their own brands, and so it's kind of unique in that regard. But Function Growth, I'll give the backstory. Function Growth is a part of Xenosci Ventures, which used to be just Xenosci. It was a company. Our founder, Michael Aaron, started the company in his grandmother's garage 25 years ago. And it's a really cool, classic entrepreneurial story. But it started as a programming company and development company, building websites, sort of evolved into a business consultancy and marketing agency. And within the last 5 years, really, we started to work with D2C brands. And part of the company, of course, working with D2C brands, much different than working with some of the larger clients that we have in our more classic marketing agency, which is now called Method One. But so we about 5 years ago started working with more D2C brands and started having a lot of success. And so in 2021, we decided that it was a good idea to launch our own product company because, we were having fun growing everyone else's. Why not grow our own? And around the same time, Michael Aaron had been traveling across the country and discovered compression socks. Basically, he was doing a long distance relationship with his now wife. At the time, it was his girlfriend, but traveling across the country almost every weekend, compression socks sucked. He was like, well, man, compression socks, we could totally disrupt this industry. There's, all the compression socks were not very colorful. They were scratchy and sort of uncomfortable to wear. They were either too tight or too loose. There was just a lot of opportunity that he saw. And of course, he was busy running the agency, so he brought me on around that same time to help launch Wellow and also to run strategy at Function Growth, which was the D2C portion of the agency that really focuses on D2C brands. So fast forward a little bit, and we've launched Wellow, and Function Growth is now bringing on new clients as well. We have a couple other owned and operated brands that we're working on too that I can't talk about just yet, but hopefully on our next podcast we can talk about those ones. But yeah, Wellow's been an amazing story. We like I said, it was highly experimental when we were first launching it. We're like, can we even launch our own D2C brand? And we kind of just had some really explosive growth in the first year, but we did 5 times as much as we thought we were going to do. And then, this year we're on track to do 400% of what we did last year. So it's just been really tremendous, and we've learned a lot over the course of actually fully managing and running the brand.
So tell us some of the secrets on how you got it to grow and sort of boom so much in that first 12 months.
Yeah, it was a lot of work up front that we did. We did a lot of consumer research to really understand what was going on in the compression socks industry and who was buying it. And that was all really helpful to how we launched. But we actually positioned the brand to be we wanted to be the compression socks brand that sort of introduced new customers to compression socks, because compression socks have all these great benefits of wearing them. They improve your circulation, which in turn improves your energy and your health and all these other things. There's a core set of compression socks users who absolutely know what they are. They even get prescribed compression socks from their doctors, so they have to wear them for their health. But we wanted to build this brand to be more inclusive, have it be, the brand that everyone can discover compression socks through. And of course, when we launched, our core audience ended up being at first just the people who already knew about compression socks. But I think there's a little bit of aspirational element to it. It was there's a lot of older people will typically use compression socks. And we sort of built the brand to be younger and more fun. And I think that there's even the older consumers have identified with that brand ethos in a way. So there's a lot of work we did up front with the branding to make it colorful and fun and engaging. We put a lot of effort into the pricing strategy partially because we decided that we wanted to launch this brand to be 100% online e-commerce. We weren't going to do any wholesale, fully D2C right at the peak of iOS 14. So some might say that was a terrible idea, but it worked for us. And it was because we had this great pricing strategy where if a consumer bought one pair of socks from us when they first ordered, we knew that we were going to lose money because acquisition costs are just so much higher on Facebook these days. We were doing like the early days, we were 95% of our customer acquisition through Meta. And so we built a smart pricing strategy where we have like a mystery pair upsell, and we have some really smart technology and custom technology that our company built into the checkout. We use Shopify, but built it into the checkout. Our cart, the way that we arrange our products on the website, free shipping threshold, all these things to drive the AOV up. And it all worked really well. We have our average AOV is around $80 for first-time consumers, which of course gives us the margin we need to be able to spend and scale up customer acquisition through digital channels. So great brand we started with, great pricing strategy that we started with. And then when we were launching, I would say we were okay at doing all the digital ads. We've become really, really good at doing all the digital advertising. Because of iOS 14, everything has shifted to be a lot more creative driven. And so like you obviously can't do as much targeting, reliable targeting through Meta. So we're now using the creative. It's almost like a step back to some of the more traditional styles of marketing where you really have to get in the mind of the consumer. What are the things that they care about? What are the things that that your ads need to speak about? And so we've got, and for the past like year, so I would say the first year and a half of Wellow, we were just producing as much creative as we possibly could, iterating on what was working and just optimizing our campaigns to basically optimize towards those best performing ads, and then continuing to iterate. We've recently started to adopt more of we're calling it the creative iteration framework, but we're getting smarter about concepting and iterating. I would say in the past, it's just been a lot of kind of like batch and blast, as much creative as we can, optimize for the good ones, more creative, optimize for the good ones. And we've recently started to get really smart about taking our creative and making it modular in a way so that, this ad is doing well and this ad is doing well. Okay, well, what are the pieces and components of each of those ads and which are linking up? Oh, this one, they both have the same intro. That must be why our thumb stock rates are so good. So let's take that and then, add it to these other components that are working well. So I haven't experienced too many other agencies that are doing that, or too many other brands that are thinking about it at that level of detail. But I think it's a movement I think that's the direction that a lot of companies are starting to go. So it's exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on.
So in that first 12 months, I'm hearing that there was a lot of meta advertising, and that was powered heavily by regular new content, new creative.
Yeah.
What were you using things like Google Ads as well, or was it all through Meta?
Yeah, I think we were definitely doing some Google, but it was mostly branded campaigns at the beginning, and then we launched some YouTube campaigns as well. And now YouTube has become the second biggest channel for us. Um, Now we're doing, I think now Google is probably around 70% of our ad spend. And the rest is YouTube and CTV and some Google things that we're doing as well. So we've diversified quite a bit, but still, 70% is still going to Meta.
And in terms of
Um,
YouTube, I assume this is YouTube ads.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
YouTube ads, um, and we've there's a slightly different like type of creative I think that works well on YouTube, and so we've had to do some more, I guess, some more like sort of traditional commercial style shoots that incorporate humor or some of those types of creative have worked better for us on YouTube. So it's forced us to now diversify our creative in even more ways by having that. But yeah,
What sort of length of ads do you find work well on YouTube?
I think most of our ads are 30 seconds on YouTube, and that's worked well for us. Yeah.
Okay. And I was expecting you to say longer actually, and then on Meta being a bit shorter, but it's interesting. It's similar. So heavily on Meta, and it was through the creative, and then what have you said you've learned a lot, and you're now, and I know that now you work with founders of all sorts of different types of e-commerce businesses, D2C businesses, typically in the US, and at all levels. So whether they're just starting or whether they're sort of turning over 100 million, but you sort of sweet spot somewhere in between the two, I think. So, if a founder's listening right now, what have you learned that you sort of, what are the key things that if you want to power an e-commerce D2C business, what are the key things that you need to be considering?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think there's a lot of different answers probably to it, but I think that, like I said, there's it's never been more important to find true product market fit. The way to think about it, I think, is sort of like you need product market fit. If you have product market fit, that's great. You also need to have a smart pricing or financial strategy for your business that allows you to scale and and actually make money, use that money and reinvest it to grow your business. The product market fit is important. Having a smart, like for us with Wellow, it was definitely the pricing strategy that was really important. Finding the product market fit is more of that sort of intangible or hard thing to achieve. But we typically, like you mentioned, there's a lot of different levels of brands that we'll work with. But typically, if you're able to get $3 million in a year, I think that's kind of that's product market fit. I think a lot of founders would typically say, "I have product market fit." I've heard this a lot of times over my years, but I have product market fit that all my friends tell me that the product is great,
Yeah, well,
and well, yeah, they're your friends.
how many times have we heard that?
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, as a founder, take a very skeptical or strict approach to achieving product market fit. But if you can get product market fit, um, and I think achieving product market fit these days is, are your customer review? What are your customers saying about you? Like when your customer support agents and your customer experience team is like the most important thing for us to understand what is happening. Even at Wellow, we've now scaled up and we're quite a large business, but for us to understand what consumers are actually care about and what they're talking about, you have to listen to your consumers. And so, especially in the early days are so important. Like for us, we launched Wellow and very quickly realized that a lot of people were having fit concerns. Like they loved the socks, they felt amazing, but they just weren't quite fitting right. And we realized that there was a really large segment of people who needed compression socks, who had larger legs or wider calves, whether it was like athletes or people who were overweight, because a lot of times compression socks are a useful tool for when you're overweight. But anyway, so we very quickly launched a wide calf sock, and ever since then, it's been 30% of our sales are wide calf socks, and it
Wow.
wouldn't have happened if we hadn't listened to our consumers and really tried to understand what was going on. So I think, my advice for founders is really like get serious about product market fit and be honest with yourself about if you've achieved product market fit. If you haven't, be very flexible with there's a lot of founders who are I built this brand this way because that's the way I want this brand to exist. But listen to your consumers and understand what consumers want, because that's what product market fit is. You're not trying to just achieve to build something that you want to exist in the world. It has to also, fit what consumers want.
For those listening or watching right now and hearing that sort of product market fit, just define it a bit more for me. And how do you really understand truly if you have got product market fit?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think basically it's value, right? As a founder, you have a thing, or as a consumer, there's the thing that you want, and you will do something, and you will be willing to pay something or create action that attracts value. So basically, if your customer acquisition costs are too, there's a lot of there's not a one thing that will tell you if you have product market fit. It's a mosaic of everything that's happening with your business. Are your customer acquisition costs too high? What sort of things are your customers saying about your product or the experience through your customer support? Are the click-through rates on your ads just too low? It's an entire composition of everything that's happening. But that's why I was saying, you will know if you have product market fit based on what your consumers are saying. Consumers will tell you.
Yeah.
And of course, the other part of it is the willingness to pay. Like you might have product market fit, but not at the price you're selling your product for. At the end of the day, any product is worth something, but it might be a lot less than what you think it is. And so that's the other component of product market fit.
And the acquisition cost as well, as you said.
Yeah.
If you're way over on that, then that suggests there could be a bit of an issue there, and perhaps things don't fit.
Yeah.
What where is the bigger opportunity? Is it I guess the answer's it's both, but is it or where's the biggest issue? Is it trying to get people to the site, or is it trying to get them to convert on the site? And where typically do most businesses fail? Is it the bringing the traffic, or is it the conversion where you tend to find there's the fix is required?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. It's got to be it's both, which is the probably diplomatic answer. But no, it's I would say that there's so much that goes into creating a good ad, and there's also so much that goes into creating a good website that's going to convert people. I think Shopify can get you pretty close, right? You use Shopify, there's all sorts of great templates, there's all sorts of great tools and plugins that you can use, and you can get your website pretty close to doing it. The part that is more difficult is understanding the messaging strategy on the website, what to say, when, where, how are you increasing your AOV, what sort of some of those smaller things, putting it all together and having the right strategy for the website. That's difficult. The tools exist. It's not hard to do. The hard part is understanding how to put it all together and make it work. But the creative, I think that's probably where people struggle the most, because it's almost like the sort of the blank canvas issue. There's so many things that you could talk about, especially as a founder. There's so many things you want to say about your brand. You're so ingrained into what you've built and what your product does and what your brand stands for and all those things. And to have a team who really knows what sort of things are working and what sort of things are resonating, and to be able to pay attention and understand and read the data and do creative iterations. That part's pretty hard. And I think you just have to be producing a lot of content, and so for small businesses, for founders, you got to probably have to work with someone to get to the level of content that you need. But
And is
anyway,
that
they're both part of the equation, right?
content for the site or for social or for both? I'm just wondering, in your head, when you're saying you've got to produce a lot of content, I'm curious as to what content you're thinking there.
Ad content, we call it performance creative,
Yeah.
which of course,
And this is
you need a
because
little bit of brand
this
creative.
is because people get bored of seeing the same thing. They want to see, they need to see it several times before they make a decision.
Several times from different people in different ways.
Yeah.
Like we have UGC ads with 20 different people who are talking about the product and talking about different features of the product, and we're matching them up and putting them together. We're using them solo. We have professional shoots that we've done where we have essentially commercials that we shot that talk about the benefits, some that are more like explainer videos, some that have humor. And there's just no way to know exactly what's going to work until you are trying them all. And to be honest, what we've seen is having more different kinds of creative helps your advertising overall, because Facebook's algorithm is optimizing for the individual, where you can't really do that. So if someone, you know, Mark might be really interested and resonate with humor focused videos, but Sarah might be really interested in seeing other people and UGC style videos. And by not having both, if you just do UGC, you miss out on all the Marks, and if you just do humor videos, you miss out on all the Sarahs. And so, by having both, Facebook will optimize all your ads, and that's kind of the world we live in nowadays.
To feed the machine, and the machine
Yeah,
will work it out
exactly.
for you. I want to talk about I want to talk about behavioral science and the sort of pivotal role it has in D2C brands. I know that in your group of companies, you have a CBL, which is the Consumer Behavior Lab, and I think you've got a behavioral science enthusiast as a co-founder. Is that right?
Mhm.
Tell me more about behavioral science, and what is it? What should D2C brands be considering, and how can it help?
Yeah, yeah. Behavioral science. We love to talk about behavioral science. It's the way we view it is essentially another input to guiding decision making and strategy for companies that a lot of people in the marketing world aren't necessarily consciously aware of. I think there's a lot of subconscious things. We all know that urgency is an important thing for consumers. If you give people a time limit on your promotion, you're going to get a lot of people who purchase towards the end of it. Um, but and that's something that marketers are aware of. Oh, we should do a timer, but they're not necessarily aware of why it's happening. And by understanding why, there's a lot of other applications that you can do, and try and test out for your brand. I think behavioral science is essentially this pool of knowledge that you can then use to then run tests and run strategies and see how it applies in the real world. For example, with one of our brands that we work with, there's a concept in behavioral science called artificial limits, which basically states that if you tell someone that there's a maximum amount that they can buy, for instance, you're buying a product. Well, I'll get to the use case, but for the test that we ran, but basically, it says if there's a limit, then you're going to end up buying more. And so we ran this test, and we said, okay, this is great. Let's apply it. And we during a promotion, we said the maximum amount of this product that you can buy is four. Even though most people never would buy four of this product. And what we saw was that our average order value and the amount of products per cart went up like 20% compared to having none of that language. So now we know that that's something to apply to all the future promotions that we do. And so that's just one example of so many. But there's behavioral science is this amazing thing. We train everyone at Function Growth goes through a training program to learn behavioral science and all these different concepts that exist, and it just gives us so many ideas and things to play around with. And you're not starting from scratch. It's not like an idea that just comes from I think this would be interesting to test. It's based in actual real world studies. Of course, the real world studies and human behavior is such a hard thing to nail down. There's so many different variables all the time. So we always say you can take a behavioral science concept, but you should run your own test to make sure that it applies to your product and your brand and your industry and your consumers. But it's just a fantastic resource that, not too many companies think about.
So is it the idea that you take the concept and then see if it works, or is it based on a data set or customer feedback? Where does it come from? And if it is a concept, I love the sort of the maximum that you combine. I was wondering if you had any others that you can throw in, because I really like that. But I was wondering if there was any others that you could throw in. So is it the concept, or is it the or would business organizations already have some data that would inform behavior science?
Probably both, right? You could approach it from both angles. There's a plethora of behavioral science studies out there that exist. I'll give a shout out to Richard Schotten, who's a part of our consumer behavior lab, but he's written 2 or 3 books on behavioral science, and each one has 25 to 30 different concepts and basically behavioral science principles in there that can be applied. But you can also take a look at your brand and behavioral science. If you know all these different concepts and you're running something that's successful, it gives you another way to step out of it for a second and think, okay, well, why did this test work? Why did this A/B? Why is this homepage variation working better than the other one that we tested? And it could be because of one of these principles. And then that gives you a way to understand it, and then something else to iterate on top of it. But yeah, there's tons. There's choice paralysis, which is the idea that consumers can be overloaded with options, and so less options that you give them, the more likely they are to change their behavior. Or social proof is one that everyone's familiar with. That's why UGC ads work so well for us for Wellow, because you see other real people in sort of real in videos that are shot to look real, and those typically resonate the best with people. Or working with why influencers work. An interesting one, really fun one, is the pratfall effect, which is essentially people's sense that if you show off your weakness as a brand, people actually view that as being more authentic. So authenticity is basically, is perceived through imperfection in a way.
Can you give me a real life example of that, where a brand goes out and gives a bit of real?
We did something really fun last year. We did a holiday card to our network, and we basically had one cookie on it that was we took a screenshot of a cookie, basically placed it there, and then we took a same screenshot of the same cookie, but we made it look perfect. We had like perfect circle around it, and so it looked like just the most ideal cookie. And we sent it out to all of our network the question was, if you were to pick which cookie to eat, which one would you pick? And people pick the one that is imperfect, but what's really fascinating is people think that they would pick the perfect one. You're like, oh yeah, I would pick the perfect one. But it's just like that. And the best way to use the pratfall effect is to highlight something that people might perceive as a weakness, but that actually highlights your strengths. So like the classic example is Guinness. Guinness for a long time got a bad reputation because it took so long to pour at the when you went to a pub. It took super long time for the Guinness to be poured because they had to get the foam and whatever. I forget exactly the reason, but it was a common complaint. And Guinness created an entire ad campaign around good things are worth the wait, basically. And so they highlighted this perceived weakness and they made it a strength. So there's just all sorts of really cool applications like that. Pratfall effect is a fun one.
I love the pratfall effect. I love you can only buy a maximum number, and I love the idea of less choice because otherwise you're overfaced. So some fantastic gold dust there. So Kyle, tell me if perhaps a founder of a a 3 million turnover e-commerce D2C brand is listening right now, watching right now, and thinks, actually, I'd love to speak to Kyle, where do you hang out? I know that we've got the functiongrowth.co is the website. Where do you hang out?
Yeah, functiongrowth.co. You can reach out to us there. You can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I check LinkedIn daily, so I'll see your message if you reach out to me and connect. You can also shoot me an email, Hoffman@functiongrowth.co. Any of those places would be a great place to connect.
Brilliant. All of this will be in the show notes, but we've run out of time. But what a great story in terms of how, well, first of all, an agency can grow its own brand. And I think that's, all credit there, to be perfectly honest, because so many agencies talk the talk, but very few walk it. So I think having your own brand, I think is really credible. And I think that's quite a USP, and really interesting in terms of what Kyle's talked about in terms of the meta, in terms of the amount of creative that you need to give that variety and give that choice. It's been really good. Listen, thank you so much. Thank you for listening. This has been Jonny Ross Fractional CMO. We've been live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Please do subscribe, hit that notification bell. Don't miss future episodes. Thank you so much for joining. Kyle, thank you for being here. And please do reach out to Kyle if you've got any questions. We'll see you soon. Thanks very much, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you, Jonny. Great
Take
time.
care.